Love. Love can be a beautiful force that brings two people together. I know this all too well because I got to witness the beautiful union of my older brother and my sister-in-law. We all laughed, we cried, especially me on the ceremony, laughed some more, and I tore up the dance floor. Love can really be a very beautiful thing. Not only will it be the most beautiful thing, it could be one of the most frightening forces, where it will leave a path of wanton destruction in a community. And on today's Death Metal Historian, one said couple were unified together. Not only did they terrify their community with their crimes, it shocked all of Canada. All my Canadian viewers know what I'm talking about, and you're all gonna hate me. Paul Bernardo and Akira Yamoka, better known as the Ken and Barbie Killers.
We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be.
Hey everybody, this is Atticus the Death Miller, and welcome to the year's first episode of the Death Metal Historian, aka the bootleg version of Absolute Mad Lads. And welcome to my two-part special on Valentine's Day. Since I love all of you guys sticking with me from day one on this channel, I decided to do two videos on this day. One of these two is this episode of the Death Metal Historian on Paul Bernardo and Akira Yamoka, the Ken and Barbie Killers. When I first discovered them was around in 2011 when I watched this series on Investigation Discovery called Most Evil, and it was an episode on partners in crime, and lo and behold, the first couple in question was of Paul Bernardo and Akira Yamoka. Their crimes were, even though they killed 3 people, the stuff they did was just absolutely terrifying. And it really just goes to show that some matches were not meant to be together. As we'll delve in this episode, you will see why. So without further ado, let us begin. June 29th. 1991, Lake Gibson, Ontario. A canoeist was enjoying himself out on the bright summer day until he spots something protruding out of the water. Curious to a fault, he decided to investigate. As he got closer to the anomaly, he soon found out that it was a limb encased in concrete. Instantly, the police were dispatched where they obtained the remains. To everyone's shock and dismay, they were confirmed to be the remains of the missing Leslie Mahaffey 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, at the nearby Niagara-on-the-Lake, a wedding was taking place on that very same day. The couple was none other than Paul Bernardo and Akira Yamoka. It was an ideal fairy tale wedding, as everyone assumed that they were the all-perfect Canadian couple. But to the gruesome discovery, people would later soon find out that this perfect couple was responsible for the horrific ending of Mahaffey's life. How could a beautiful couple be responsible for the snuffing of a life of a young Canadian girl that had so much to live for? Well, as always with what we do on this series, let us delve into the couple's early beginnings. Take it away.
Let's find out.
Kenneth Bernardo was born on August 27th, 1964 in Scarborough, Ontario. He was born into a family that was very wealthy, where his father, Kenneth Bernardo, carried on the family business of selling tile and marble for housing and buildings. In his book, Lethal Marriage by Nick Prawn, he described the young Bernardo. He was always happy, a young boy who smiled a lot, and he was so cute with his dimpled good looks and his sweet smile that many of the mothers just wanted to pinch them on the cheek whenever they saw him. He was the perfect child they all wanted. Polite, well-mannered, doing well in school, so sweet in his Boy Scout uniform. Yeah, no. Despite all these good traits, it was all a facade. The Bernardos, though very wealthy, were a very, very dysfunctional. Kenneth and Marilyn Bernardo slept in separate rooms, and despite being a successful businessman, Kenneth Bernardo was a sicko. He was a peeping Tom who would often relieve himself watching young girls undress. And if that wasn't fucked up enough, not only did he molest a young girl, he even sexually abused Paul's sister. Both of these acts, including his peeping Tom adventures, made Marilyn depressed, withdrawing from family life, and would often live like a hermit in the basement. By the time Paul reached 16, he was given a bombshell that would change his life forever. Paul discovered that Kenneth was not his father.
You are not!
That Paul was a direct result of an affair Marilyn had with an ex-boyfriend. Paul was a bastard. When Paul found out, he confronted his mother, which resulted in a huge screaming contest. Now, Paul having this news dropped him did not help, since he was in that time where puberty set in and he developed some fantasies. Very, very, very fucked up fantasies. Even though he hated his stepdad, Kenneth, he was a lot like him, but way worse. He would, of course, carry on the generational curse of being a peeping Tom, as well as fantasizing raising a farm. A farm of virgin women where he would have his way with all of them. What the fuck?! Bernardo was keenly interested in the 1991 Bret Easton Ellis novel, American Psycho, and read it as his Bible. So, Bernardo was the real-life Patrick Bateman, the Canadian Psycho.
So to hell with good intentions. So to hell with where I'll go.
His constant red flag behavior amongst women would get progressively worse as time went on, and women around the Scarborough area were all not safe. Carla Leanne Homolka was born in Mississauga, Ontario on May 4th, 1970. She was the eldest of 3 daughters. Unlike the Bernardos, the Homolkas were a middle-class family where they were very well off. Karel Homolka, her father, was an immigrant from his native Czechoslovakia who worked as a traveling salesman. Sadly, he fell under the Slavic or Central European stereotype of being an alcoholic. Okay, now, first Jenny Jones, then John Wayne Gacy Jr., now Carl Homolka. Like, this is gonna be a running series on this joke, isn't it? His mother, Dorothy Seeger, was an employee to a geriatric clinic. Carla was a bright child and a good student that was doted on by her father, but he would also insult her and her mother and sisters during his drunk episodes and took refuge in the basement when he got in arguments with them. When the Homolka's marriage faltered and Karel took on a mistress, however, Dorothy's response was to propose her a threesome and keep on as normal. Well, okay then. Alright then. From a young age, Carla was described as stubborn and domineering, being unable to compromise with other children and always willing to speak her mind to adults. She had a depressive episode and she began to attend Sir Winston Churchill Secondary School, during which she would dress in non-conforming manner, cut herself, and claim false suicide attempts. As a way to seek attention, she later developed sadistic and masochistic fantasies. Homolka got a part-time job at a pet store where she was in high school, and after graduating in 1988, she was hired by Thoroyd Veterinary Clinic as a full-time veterinary technician. Carla, despite the alcoholic episodes of her father, the polyamory incident, as well as her weird behaviors, seemed to really love and enjoy her job being a vet, taking care of people's pets. This seemed to be a great outlet for her, and later on would develop a loving, caring personality tending to animals. If only she had that future in store for her. In May 4th, 1987, a 21-year-old woman was walking over to her home in the late hours. All of a sudden, an unknown assailant came up from behind and proceeded to rape her close to her house. Little did every woman knew that this was the first of 14 brutal rapes perpetrated by this man. He would be dubbed the Scarborough Rapist. These rapes would happen from 1987 till 1990. The man was a perfect predator, knowing when and where to strike his victims, following them in the parks when they would get off buses, as well as follow them to their homes. He would always attack them behind and threaten them that he would do far worse if they didn't do what he wanted. As in, well, you know. With every new victim, the man in question would become progressively worse with every assault, upping the ante on the sexual violence, inserting sticks and stones in their vagines, leaving them out for them to collect themselves before attacking them again and again and again. Despite everything that the police were doing to find him, the rapist was always 2 steps ahead of them. It was so bad that the police decided to call in some help. Helping the FBI. The FBI knew that what the police were dealing with was a man that clearly was a raging misogynist, knew his layouts and where to strike, and with every new victim, his cruelty and sadism were getting worse. Now, I'm not really quoting this, but I feel that this is what the FBI said to the Scarborough police. Basically like this. Alright, you motherfuckers really need to get your shit together and get your heads out of your fucking ass. Because what this guy is doing, every new victim that's gonna come forth and survive this guy, he is gonna do a lot worse, and it's gonna progress to the point where this motherfucker is actually going to murder some woman. So y'all better get your heads out of your fucking asses and treat this fucking seriously. Or I don't know, just stop beating up minorities.
Oh God! Oh my God! Oh!
October 1987. Bernardo and Homolka met at a hotel restaurant. He was 23 and she was 17 years old. Okay, take a shot every time there's a red flag. Homolka had come to Scarborough to attend a pet store conference. They were instantly attracted to each other and, well, they fucked the shit out of each other. From then on, Bernardo would drive to see Homolka twice a week. Despite the age difference, the Homolkas saw Bernardo as a perfect fit for their daughter.
Dear Paul, I can't help falling in love with you. You're a dream come true.
Unbeknownst to them, Paul was in the works of having a partner in crime. Unlike most of his exes who were smart enough to leave the toxic relationship, Carla was very submissive towards Paul. Paul solely took control of the young Homolka. Paul would control every aspect of her life. How she would dress, style, eat, and behave.
Don't talk back to Paul. Always smile when you're with Paul. Be a perfect girlfriend for Paul.
He often called her fat and ugly. Unlike his previous girlfriends, Homolka easily submitted to and encouraged his sexual behavior, writing his indications on a self-improvement list.
Remember you're stupid. Remember you're ugly. Remember you're fat.
Though it didn't end the relationship, the reveal that Homolka wasn't a virgin when they first met upset Bernardo greatly. Just, keep that in mind for later. They were, in fact, dating during the height of the Scarborough rapes until one fateful day, in 1990, a sketch was released. A sketch that bared a striking resemblance to Paul Bernardo.
He said it! He said it!
At the time, Bernardo had quit his job and got his money by smuggling cigarettes across the US-Canadian border. Now, cigarette smuggling was a thing during the late 80s and early 90s in Canada, where crime families often did business with First Nation reservations. One notable person who actually did business in illicit cigarette smuggling was none other than former wrestler Dino Bravo. Now, I know I'm getting a little bit sidetracked, but I would say that if Dino Bravo knew what the fuck that Paul Bernardo was doing, he would have crippled him. A little bit sidetracked, but let's continue. Friends and previous girlfriends of Bernardo saw the released sketch and tried to contact the police, but the officers were overwhelmed by the other tips and were unable to follow up on them. In November, 2 detectives visited Bernardo and took blood, saliva, and hair samples from him, but they wouldn't be tested for 2 years. They should have gave him the fucking book. Paul quickly had become acquainted with the Homolkas, almost like that of family. One sibling in particular loved Paul, and it was Carla's youngest sister, Tammy Homolka. Tammy looked up to Paul like he was the big brother she never had. Paul, too, loved Tammy. Just not the way that Tammy loved Paul. Paul loved Tammy for a different and fucked up reason. You see, earlier, Paul was disappointed that Carla was not a virgin when they first did the thing. So when he saw Tammy, and that Tammy was a virgin, he was lusting the shit off of Tammy. Now, if you were dating a guy, and if you found out that your significant other was lusting after your first sister, if you were a normal person, you found out, you would have instantly said, "Get the fuck out of here or I'm calling the cops." But you have to remember, this is Carla Homolka that we are talking about. To where not only she was aware of Paul's fantasies over her sister, she also helped and encouraged to lust after her younger sister, often helping him spank his monkey while he was out peeping Tomming out her window when she was undressing. You know, might as well just up the ante. Might as well just do the grapefruit technique while he is beating off, watching your sister undress. Just go up the ante. Paul confided to Carla to hatch a plan to take Tammy's virginity, where Carla agreed, but to give her virginity to him as a Christmas present. Sister of 1990, people! Sister of 1990! December 23rd of that year, the parents went to bed. The only people up were Paul, Carla, and Tammy. They offered Tammy a big girl drink that was laced up with powerful sleeping pills that Carla stole from her veterinarian job. As soon as she was out cold, Paul proceeded to plow her from behind, while Carla held a rag soaked with halothane. And if that wasn't fucked up enough, Paul instructed Carla to fuck her own sister, which she happily obliged. Now, I know you people, like, you are trying to deny it, but, like, I understand. Like, a lot of people, when they go through Pornhub or, like, any other porn sites, they always love the, what are you doing, stepsis? Oh, what are you doing, stepdad?
Oh, stepbrother, I'm stuck in a washing machine.
And then, you know, the whole thing fucking happens. But if you actually do it, and you're not from West Virginia or Alabama, you're absolutely fucked in the head. As they were both going to town on Tammy, she began to vomit. She stopped breathing after Homolka held her down to clear her throat. After failing to revive Tammy, the couple dressed her, moved her into a room, and cleaned up the evidence before they called 911. Although Tammy had a visible chemical burn on her face, her death was ruled accidental. At the funeral, Bernardo was caught stroking Tammy's hair as she laid in an open casket, and a 1993 exhumation revealed that the couple had also placed a photo of theirs in the casket. That is some cold shit right there. Bernardo and Homolka then moved to Port Dalhousie, where they filmed themselves while role-playing sexual encounters between Bernardo and Tammy. Homolka played the part of her sister and wore her clothes to reinforce the fantasy. Just, keep that in mind later. Now, around the aftermath of the death of Tammy, the Homolkas were in the process of preparing for Carla and Paul's wedding. But things were difficult due to losing your daughter, unbeknownst the fact that her fate was way fucking worse. To add insult to injury, Carla was angry over her parents grieving when the attention should be around her. Yeah, how dare your mom and dad, like, grieve over the fact they lost their baby daughter and are not focusing on your wedding? Like, how dare they? Fuck off with that shit! Things between the couple were going from bad to worse, where Paul's sexual fantasies began to escalate, with Carla's full participation and willingness to have them fulfilled. On June 7th, 1991, Homolka invited a teenager that she had befriended at work. Her name is to remain anonymous for obvious reasons, so we'll be referring to her as J. Doe. She was invited over to their house. After she passed out from having a drink laced with halcyon, Homolka told Bernardo that she had a surprise wedding gift for him. The two filmed themselves as they raped her. The victim woke up the next day with nausea, but left without realizing that she had been raped. On June 15th, Bernardo took a detour to Burlington to steal license plates to use in his smuggling business when he met, you guessed it, Leslie Mahaffey. Sadly for her, Mahaffey was locked outside her home in punishment for missing her curfew. Yeah, the Mahaffeys were following up on the news at the time. They would know that a very, very, very sadistic man was prowling around. After Mahaffey was offered and accepted a cigarette, Bernardo led her to his car where he pulled out a knife and blindfolded her and drove to Port Dalhousie, telling Homolka that they had a playmate. Carla was angry. Not because, Paul kidnapped a young girl and would do thanks to her. She was pissed that she did not accompany him. For the next few days, the couple proceeded to rape and torture the poor girl, videotaping the spectacle as well. The recurrences were in order for Paul to get a raging boner. He demanded Leslie to say insulting and degrading things about herself while he got rock hard. She was also forced to toss his salad. Doing all this while Bob Marley and David Bowie was blaring in the background. At one point, Bernardo said, "You're doing a good job, Leslie. Good job. A damn good job." Adding, "The next 2 hours are going to determine what I do to you. Right now, you're scoring perfect." Mahaffey later told Bernardo that her blindfold seemed to be slipping, which signaled the possibility that she could identify her attackers if she was free or lived. The following day, they strangled Mahaffey to death. They kept the body in the basement where they dined with the Homolka family upstairs and later dismembered her, encased her remains in 8 concrete blocks, and threw the blocks into Lake Gibson. Just like earlier, the remains were found on June 29th, the same day that Bernardo and Homolka were married. So the couple had 2 on their kill counts, and this time, they will do it together. April 16th, 1992, the couple prowled around St. Catharines to look for a fresh new boyfriend-free girl. There, they stumbled across the 15-year-old Kristen French. French was walking briskly to her home nearby. They pulled into the parking lot of nearby Grace Lutheran Church, and Homolka got out of her car, map in hand, pretending to need assistance. When French looked at the map, Bernardo attacked from behind, brandishing a knife, forcing her into the front seat of the car. Homolka subdued French by pulling her hair. Over the Easter weekend, Bernardo and Homolka videotaped themselves torturing, raping, and sodomizing French for 3 days, forcing her to drink large amounts of alcohol and submit to Bernardo. There was one occurrence where French asked Bernardo to get some food for her. This was all a distraction for Christian to plead to Carla to let her go so that she could escape. She was not buying it. During her last 3 days on Earth, she was even forced to watch the tape of them brutalizing Mahaffey. Though she became confrontational at the end, calling him a bastard, just like his mother had, and told him, "I don't know how your wife can stand being around you." She was severely beaten before her death. Once again, the couple left the body in the home while they dined with the Homolkas. They later washed it and cut her hair before they threw the remains in a ditch in Burlington, close to the cemetery where Mahaffey was buried. Bernardo was interviewed by 2 police officers a month after French's murder, but they considered him an unlikely suspect, even after he admitted to have been interviewed previously in the connection to the Scarborough rapes. Yet they didn't do jack fucking shit! Soon, Bernardo and Homolka solicited to change their legal names to Tele, the surname of a serial killer in the 1988 film Criminal Law. With a dozen or more rapes, 3 murdered young girls, and a police force with their heads up their asses, it seemed that Paul and Carla were free range to continue their unholy marriage. But soon, things would come to an end. Like all good infamous serial killer cases, they will all meet their end. Dahmer underestimated Tracy Edwards. John Wayne Gacy got careless, killing a kid who had a family that gave a fuck. But for the case of Paul, Bernardo, and Carla Homolka, it was good old domestic violence. On December 27th, Bernardo savagely beat Homolka with a flashlight, leaving her with bruises on her limbs, a broken rib, and 2 black eyes. Nonetheless, he returned to work on January 4th, 1993, and tried to pass her injuries as a result of a traffic accident. Her co-workers did not believe her and alerted her parents, who insisted on taking her to a hospital. Once there, Homolka claimed to be a battered spouse and filed charges against Bernardo, who was briefly arrested. By sheer coincidence, the samples that Bernardo had given 2 years earlier were tested right around this time, positively, identifying him as the Scarborough rapist.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Homolka moved to Brampton with her aunt and uncle and told them that Bernardo was both the Scarborough rapist and the killer of Mojave and French. In February, she sought full immunity from prosecution in exchange for her cooperation, but this was denied. Instead, Homolka was given a week to accept a 12 years prison term for manslaughter or face charges for 3 murders. Yes! 3 murders! The case of Tammy was reopened. Crunk, take it from here.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Carla wanted to make it out that she was an unwilling victim that participated in the atrocious acts that the two did. But as investigators searched around their place, they stumbled upon the tapes. The tapes that they both recorded of the horrific raping and torturing of their victims. One of them being Tammy Homolka.
You guys just messed up.
Indeed.
Big time.
Carla knew. She done fucked up. The whole plea deal that she did was dubbed by prosecutors the deal with the devil. The media went bonkers over the two, giving them the names the Ken and Barbie killers. Well, why? Well, it's very simple, dimple, pop, and squish. They look like Ken and Barbie dolls. The perfect Canadian couple. On opposite day, Homolka took the deal and testified against Bernardo in his trial, which took place in 1995. On September 1st, Bernardo was sentenced to life in prison without parole for at least 23 years. Which, good! Fucking good! So just like with what I did on my episodes of LA 92, Lords of Chaos, and the Jenny Jones Show murder, where is everybody now? Paul Bernardo was in Kingston Penitentiary from 2013 and currently is continuing his sentence in the Millhaven Institute. He's considered on the list of dangerous offenders, which he is basically going to live the rest of his life behind bars, which fucking good. Rot. Bernardo became eligible for parole in February 2018. On the 17th of October 2018, he was denied and full parole by the Parole Board of Canada. His next parole hearing took place on June 22nd, 2021. It took only 1 hour of deliberation by the preceding judge for his application to be turned down. Why even do fucking trials? Like, you already know he's gonna be, like, living the rest of his days in fucking prison. But I've also garnered some news from my friend Wizard Horse. Back in 1995-96, his father saw Paul Bernardo from the distance, where Paul was given 10 minutes of outside time alone and then being sent back to his cell. Surrounded by guards due to being on suicide watch, no social contact ever, and as you can see him right now, he is a former shell of what he once was. Just a disgusting, sick, and depraved fuck. And I hope that he has become everyone's bitch, including the prison guards. Like, literally, he deserves every amount of suffering each day until he fucking dies from prison AIDS.
I like you, and I want you. Now, we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. The choice is yours.
But what about Carla Homolka? So we all know her original sentence was 12 years. Simple, right? But on July 4th, 2005, 1776 day, Carla Homolka was a free woman. When Canada found out, everyone, rightfully so, was fucking furious. Upon her release, she later moved away from Ontario to Quebec. Carla lost everything. Her family, rightfully disowning her, she was blacklisted, and everyone wanted to fucking kill her. She attempted to change her name, but of course it fucking failed. But the craziest fucking thing, was that Carla married the brother of her lawyer. Two things. One, to the person decided to marry Carla, you're not just a simp. You're a simp with no morals. And two, can you imagine how fucking awkward the conversation must have been with the first few dates?
Babe, I need to tell you something.
Yeah, babe, what is up?
I must confess, I really have not been truthful to you at the start.
Babe, wait, are you telling me? Are you telling me you've been seeing other men? How could you?
What? No! Good heavens, hell no! I would never do such a thing. Though there was that one time where me and my ex-husband drugged up my younger sister, where we both raped her.
Run that by me again! But wait! There's more! If you thought all that was crazy, in 2007, she gave birth to a baby boy. Yes, she had a baby. Quebec Children's Aid said that despite Yamoka's past, the new mother would not automatically be scrutinized. Several nurses had refused to care for Yamoka before she gave birth. She later lived in the Antilles so that she can then give her 1-year-old a more normal life. In 2014, the killer Luca Magnotta of Don't Fuck With Cats fame claimed to have had a fling with Carla, which I call bullshit. Living in Salaberry de Valleyfield with no husband and children, which good. And I really hope that the haunting faces of Leslie, Kristen, and even her younger sister, Tammy, haunt her very fucking dreams till this fucking day. Paul Bernardo and Carla Yamoka, bar none, were the most infamous killer couple in Canadian history. Despite not having a bigger killer count than Dahmer and Gacy, the severity of their crimes were unspeakable. Paul was considered one of the worst misogynists still alive today, where his extreme sexual desires caused unspeakable terror across St. Catharines, Toronto, and Scarborough. Carla, on the other hand, was willing to do anything to make sure that her love with Paul was secured, even if it meant offering her younger sister for the two of them to have their way. And also, I would just like to say this and give a little tangent over here, is that the reason why all this shit happened was just the incompetence. The absolute fucking incompetence of the law enforcement. Even though they were like saying, oh yeah, we're trying our best to like find this guy, they were doing jack diddly shit to help out. There were several cases. There was a sketch. There were DNA sampling. And yes, even though DNA sampling was, way ahead of its time, they still had a fucking sketch. They still probably should have been like, okay, we need to watch this guy very closely and keep in good contact. Just like, the detectives with John Wayne Gacy. But they didn't do shit. They didn't do jack fucking shit at all whatsoever. They should have came forth with all of the former exes that Paul had relationships with, but they didn't do jack fucking shit. They should have done a fucking case around him and kept good watch, but they didn't. The police failed all those women that were raped, and they also failed Leslie, Kristen, and Tammy. Their incompetence. Like, if they actually did their jobs, like, Tammy, Kristen, and Leslie would be alive today. But they didn't do shit. They didn't. Oh, but Atticus the death mailer, it's Canada. It's current year land. Well, I mean, this is something they were never dealt with. I don't give a fuck. Do your fucking jobs. There is a reason why people say ACAB for a fucking reason. And you failed those women. There's a reason why Me Too was a thing. Hopefully, there is a sense of improvement with the rising popularity of the Me Too movement, where awareness of vicious sex crimes are taking more into consideration, and that none of this will never be tolerated, hoping that another killer couple will never emerge again. So, what do you guys think about this episode of the Death Metal Historian? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? How old were you around the time when the Ken and Barbie killers were taking place? Do you live in Toronto? Do you live in St. Catharines? Do you live in Scarborough, Ontario? Which part of Ontario do you live in? Do you live in Quebec? Leave it all down on the comments below. And just like with every other death metal historian, I have a Discord server. So if you follow me on Instagram, I will show you instructions how to follow me on Discord, and we can bring up more episodes on the death metal historian to go on. There's already a lot of people giving me a lot of recommendations, but just make sure that they will be carefully secured in my death metal historian folder on my desktop. So get ready and stay tuned for a few hours for the next video coming up on this 2-video special. Without further ado, ladies and gents, I am Atticus the Death Meller. Hope you like this video, subscribe to my channel, links are down in the description below. Keep it metal, stay safe, stay healthy, and happy Valentine's Day, and I will see you in the Death Metal Reviews episode of Welcome to Horrorwood, Ice 9 Kills, The Silver Screen Part 2. Prost.